All right, Facebook, we're back again. We are live for day 4 of our 12-day Conquering the Inner Storm live stream. And we're hoping that we are making the impact that's heard around the world with
Yes.
self-help, with helping people on their self-help journey to self-discovery, all the things. I'm LaDawn Elliott.
And I'm Nicole Bradley.
And we're just kind of gonna go ahead and jump into it tonight.
We're gonna hop
As
in
this
it. Hop
hop
in.
in.
This is a good topic. This is a
This,
good one right here. I mean,
this is
all of them are good,
yeah.
but this one is especially juicy.
I think this is a great topic. I remember saying when we were going through the Tabitha Brown 30-day challenge, when you got to some of the challenges, the topics just look real, like okay, finding a new fragrance, whatever that looked like, and it didn't seem like you could really get that deep in the conversation. And tonight's topic, dealing with stress and pressure, that just seems like, oh, everybody has pressure, everybody has stress. It's not really a whole bunch to deal with. But
Right.
again, once you really start diving deep and working through it, you will realize that stress and pressure are real. Stress and pressure come at you from every angle in your life, and you might not
Correct.
even recognize or realize that. So, yeah. So I like the conversation last night. We were gonna do what we did last night. We're gonna alternate with the one word and then the quote and question, and we have our first male experience. Special guest coming in tonight will share his experience in going through the Conquering the Inner Storm journal specifically on this topic. So uh we're not going to go through the whole closure, love letter, all that kind of good stuff. We want to leave room for this special guest because we want to hear what he has to say. And I think this is a good topic for a man to kind of
I
talk
do
about,
too.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let me say hello to a couple of people that I see that have joined, and then we'll jump right in. So, hey Felicia, thank you for joining us tonight. Hey Dot, hey Verna, hey Ron, thank you for joining us tonight. And as always, we appreciate you taking time out of your evening to tune
Yes,
in. And I
absolutely.
will ask, as I've asked the previous 3 nights, if you know someone that should be here listening, or if you want to share the live on your page, all you have to do is hit the share button and have it go to your page. And people that are just scrolling, that are just looking and might come across your page, will also see the live as well. So that will be a way that we can have other people engage also. So again,
Absolutely.
yeah, lifestyle topic 4, dealing with stress and pressure. So you want to go ahead and read the excerpt, Nicole?
I can. So the excerpt for said chapter. Dealing with stress and pressure in life involves finding healthy ways to manage and cope with the demands and challenges that you face. It may involve setting boundaries, practicing self care, and finding ways to relax and unwind. It can also be helpful to develop healthy coping mechanisms such as exercise, meditation, or talking to a friend or a therapist. Identifying the source of stress and finding ways to address them can also be important. By learning to manage stress and pressure, you can improve your overall well being and quality of life.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
So, I'll take the one word first, so Don, if
Go
you're okay.
ahead.
I don't
What
want you
you?
to steal my word. I get the
Okay.
feeling you may steal my word. So, I did do one word this time. This is my second time obeying the rules.
Okay. And I did
Probably,
I did it
probably
again.
not that.
I did it again. I figure why stop now.
So my one word was identifying.
Okay.
So identify, and where it says that is identifying the sources of stress and finding ways to address them can also be important. So my one word was identifying. And the reason why I select that word because I think stress is very reactionary. So
Mm.
you take the time to say, okay, what is the root cause of the stress?
Ooh,
Where is
good,
it
good,
coming
good.
from? How did it get here? Have I felt this way before? How did I deal with it last time? So in my mind, identifying is a way that you have to dig a little deeper to understand the true impact of the stressor and then to make an assessment whether or not you're either overreacting, underreacting, or you just don't have a plan, or you weren't prepared for the stress in the
Mm.
first place. So that's what stood out to me. I don't think as process oriented as my head is, I don't put in place a plan for stress, because stress is, it happens. I put a plan in place for risk,
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't necessarily put in a plan in place for stress.
So explain.
Yeah, because so risk to me is things that I've at least identified in my little brain that, worst case scenario, this
Okay.
can happen. What if this happens? So I try to play all of the cards, but it still could be stressful, even though you know the outcome going through the process. So how do you kind of deal with the in between, phases of it? Is what I don't think I do a good job of preparing for.
Okay. 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 Hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. So the exercise or the activity is to choose one word from the excerpt,
One word,
and
Ladon.
I've not been able to do it. And as a matter of fact, I got two separate situations going on. So
Here we
before I
go.
jump into, continue to pray for me, sis. Uh, before I jump into what I want to share, I want to say hello, Sean. Thank you for joining. Thank you for
Hey,
watching, and thank you, Jack, for watching. I appreciate you guys. So the word that stood out to me was boundaries, and we talked a little bit about that
yeah.
yesterday. So I just kind of reiterate what I've written down. Boundaries were very important for me to establish to create a stress-free life. I had to learn to set internal boundaries, such as not always working, not always worrying, not always trying to maintain control.
Mm.
I had to really learn the difference between freedom from, freedom to. And what I mean by that, we're always trying to get away from something. We want freedom from this job. We want freedom. And I had to learn, once I relinquished control and stopped worrying about everything and just kind of let things happen, I had more of a freedom to do things, to do the
Oh,
things
I
that I
like
wanted to do. So
that.
yeah, so I had to really learn the difference between freedom from and freedom to. I know how I now I
Uh-oh.
really stand on business when it comes to the word no, no, complete sentence for me. I don't mind telling anybody no. I'm not thinking about your feelings. I
Mm.
never had a problem telling someone else no. I had a problem telling myself no. So that was a
Ah.
big boundary for me. And I mean, I wouldn't tell myself no to it's time to get more rest. It's time to stop working. It's time to
Oh, gotcha.
do whatever you need to do for you. So everything else I could put in front of me to make sure it was done or that hole was plugged, but I would always put off what I needed to do for me. So I had to set a boundary for me.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought mine is flip flop, but the same thing. Like I had a harder time setting boundaries for others, and the things that they needed normally impeded on that time for me to do things for me, if that made
Okay.
sense. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing, but I love the freedom from and the freedom to.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big difference because you're always. I was always thinking when I'm in the height of stress about getting away, even if it's I need to get away from the house and go to Walmart. Freedom from the house for a minute, rather than trying to figure out, as you said, identifying what the source of the stress and the pressure is, working through that, and then clearing the space to have the freedom to do what you choose to do, what you want to do. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a real
Like
big
that.
difference. It's a real big difference. And the other one I chose was coping mechanism. Why did I choose that? Because that's almost like resilience for me. For those of you that don't know, I hate the word resilience. I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate it. I have a little blurriness going on. I don't know why, but we'll worry about that later. But resilience means, for me, people think you're strong. And then after they'll tell you, oh, you've been through something, you're so strong, you're resilient, but they forget you still need stuff because you're resilient, right?
Mhm.
And coping mechanism is giving me that same type of feeling because
Oh,
it's things that we do to not necessarily deal with the stress, the pressure, or the issue. It's something we do to escape it. So I'm going to eat as a coping mechanism. I'm going to use drugs. I'm going to use alcohol. I'm going to use sex. I'm going to use video games, whatever that looks like as the coping mechanism, right?
Mm.
And I think we need to think about coping mechanism in a different way. We need to figure out how to, again, identify the problem and be willing to work through, sit in the problem, sit in why it's stress, sit in why it's pressure, and figure out what we can do to relieve it in a way that is healthy. So I want to challenge us to rethink about coping mechanisms as a way of finding temporary pleasure as
Mm.
opposed to finding a way to really help you not resolve it, because stress is always going to come, but to know
Mm.
that it's going to come and have a system in place to deal with it. Yeah. So yeah. So those are my that was probably about 16 words out of that
Yeah,
paragraph
I wasn't counting. I was not counting. I'm just saying.
that I wanted to kind of expound on. So before we jump into the quote and question,
Yep.
again, this topic is dealing with stress and pressure. So again, I think when people hear that, it's very generic, but I wanted to point out stress comes in many forms and fashions. You can get stressed just from your role. You're stressed in your role as a parent, having to be somebody something for 24/7 all the
Yep.
time. Someone that's stress. Stress in just being a woman. Stress in being a man. Stress in being an employee at work. Stuff is coming to you left and right that you're having to navigate. Stress in being a friend, because sometimes people have expectations of you that you just don't have the capacity to deal with, and that's
Right.
stressful. Stress with being a spouse, even in a good relationship, is
Yep.
stress associated. It's
Yes.
stress associated with having to be with someone all the time,
Right.
and hoping that you are being what they need, being what they want. Stress and being a sibling. Sometimes your siblings can weigh you down. Stress and being a child. It's a
Yep.
lot. People think that children are just not people. They're little adults. They're going through this same crazy world that we're going through, and they don't have the wherewithal, the
Right.
experience to deal
Right.
with it like we do. So it's probably more stressful for them than it is for us. So stress can come at you from a lot of different ways. And I don't think until you're forced to have to kind of use a journal to write it down, you don't realize the 100 million areas in your life that stress is invading your mental and emotional space, right? And then pressure. I think this is worse than stress, because there's so much pressure. You have societal pressure. Women should be married at a certain age. Your family are asking you at uh, um, holidays, you ain't married yet, or when you get married, when you gonna have the kid, and when you have the kid, when you gonna get the house. Again, pressure to be married, pressure to have children, pressure to have a career at a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
pressure to have this much money at a certain age. Everybody's time clock is different.
Right.
And I felt really bad with my oldest son when both my kids were super smart, right? But when he graduated from high school, he later told me he felt so much pressure because everybody kept asking him what he was going to do. He really didn't know what he wanted to do. He didn't know if he wanted to go to school. He didn't know if he wanted to go into service. He didn't know if he wanted to just work at McDonald's, whatever that looked like. But there was pressure to take that next step. So he
Mm-hmm.
applied to colleges. He got accepted to college. He went on ahead and went to college because that was the expected next step. And he didn't want to.
Right.
He later said that that wasn't what he wanted to do. But I imagine that there are a lot of people pressured into things
Yep.
that don't know how to handle it and just break under the pressure, and end up being in places that's not healthy for them.
Yeah. I got pressured into my first marriage.
Oh,
Yeah. So my family is super Southern, super Christian, super religious, super like if you kiss someone, like you're probably going to jail. Like I was brought up in that type of learning environment. And
yeah.
When I got pregnant with Trey, I was not married.
Okay.
I had no intentions on marrying the baby's dad at that point because it was like, I don't know, we good friends. This may not work out. Let's see, let's maybe give it a year or so after the baby got here. And my mom, it was like it was like if my mom don't like you, like then everybody in the house gotta not like you because she got to
Oh,
go
wow.
and say. And so for my first 8 months of my pregnancy, I don't think I spoke a word to my parents after I told them I was pregnant. And so she said, I'll talk to you when you get married. I'm just telling the truth. It's the truth. She'll tell you about it. And so ended up went to the courthouse, got married. After I got married, when I got a hot fudge sundae with nuts from McDonald's. So that was it.
Are you for real?
I'm so serious. And about 4 months later, Trey came, and less than a year before Trey turned 1, we was divorced. And it was the pressure. It was the pressure of losing my family. I had never been a mom. None of my siblings have kids. So I was like, I need support. I need help. I need my family. I mean, I love my family, right? And I want to make them proud of me. And so I went ahead and got married. It's a pressure to get married because she didn't want me to have a child out of wedlock and maybe went through some of the things. She superimposed some of her experiences on me.
Okay.
And we've later talked about it and we laugh about it now. But honestly, my first marriage was not something I was happy about at all.
Wow.
Literally went to the courthouse in my jogging pants and was like, "We're here." Now,
Wow. Okay.
now I tell you, my second one. Now I'm saying, feel me.
Got it right. The
Yeah,
second time was the charm.
right.
Okay.
Second time a charm, but I'm just giving that example, and I want to
Yeah.
share that example. Pressure
Yeah.
is real.
Pressure is real.
It
And
is real.
people fold under pressure. And you're lucky if they just fold and acquiesce to what you're saying and eventually figure it out or it works out. But some people fold and are not here anymore.
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
we really have to think about this thing
that's right.
because it's serious. So before we continue to go on, I think I said hello to Felicia, Dot, Verna, and Run. I wanted to say, I think I caught Sean and Jackie as well. I wanted to give a shout out to Marilyn. Thank you for joining as well. So, yeah. So again, these are very real topics. And let me just stop and say this for the people that have just joined. Nicole and I are in the midst of going through a 12-day Conquering the Inner Storm live Facebook book stream. That's our journal that she's holding up. And our goal is to help people understand how to approach the journal, give people ideas as to what they might expect based on our experiences. We don't want to tell you this is the exact way to do it because everyone is at a different place in life.
Yeah.
Everyone has different experiences. So you're going to get something completely different out of the journal, every single person. But our hope is that things that you have been afraid to talk to anybody about or to admit to yourself, this journal provides a safe space for you to do that. If you're doing it by yourself, or if you decided to do it with a group of people, the people you decided to do it with, that they're close enough and they're tender enough with you for you to share some of the intimate things that you might write down in the journal. We had a special guest on last night that just blew my mind. She said the chapter we covered last night was maintaining your physical and mental health. And she said the first time she ever said outside of her mind, outside of her mouth, was in this journal. This journal gave her the safe space to admit that she had some abandonment issues. She
Yep.
had even gone to counseling and had not admitted that or even brought it up in counseling. So, again, as I said before, this journal, if you really take it to heart and do it seriously, will allow you the space to deal with some things that you push down, that been
Yeah.
afraid to deal with, emotions that you've not wanted to feel. But that's the point. You can't get to the other side of the storm without going through the storm. So this is what
Mhm.
this journal helps you do. So
Right.
that's what we're doing. We're on day 4. And
Mhm.
again, I know it might be a little difficult for you guys to just listen to us and not have the information before you. So we strongly encourage you to go out on Etsy.com, ETSY.com, search Conquering the Inner Storm. The picture of our journal will pop up.
Yep.
Click on purchase and purchase the journal. So
And that's pressure. We are pressuring you. We were just talking about pressure.
but this is good pressure because
Good pressure. Right.
we want to help relieve some of that pressure you are carrying around and holding on to and having to figure out coping mechanisms that are not healthy for you to deal with that stress. We want to be the pen that helps you slowly release the air out of that stress, out of that storm, out of that pressure. So yeah, so that was the first activity, reading the excerpt for the chapter and then doing the one word. And next we have the quote and question. So Nicole and I will
Okay. Yeah,
alternate doing
let's
the
go.
quotes
Yeah.
and questions real quick.
I pop us off. The first
Okay.
quote is stress is not what happens to us, it's our response to what happens. And response is something that we can choose. And so, what I wrote down about that quote that really struck with me is that I have a choice. That stress is a choice, but stress is also a victimizer. So, stress
What?
is, hey, yeah, girl, girl,
What?
what? You see me? You see
What?
me? You saw
Say
me
that
right there.
again. Say
So
that again. Say it again, because I don't think the people in the back heard you. Say
I'm
it again.
glad that I have a choice in the matter of stress, but stress can also be a victimizer.
Yeah.
And I am just thrilled that I have chose to make the choice. Um, and we've gone through this journal a couple times, and every time I find something new, even about the coding questions, I'm like, oh, something new will pop up or whatnot. And stress being a victimizer was my latest assessment. And I don't want to use stress as a way to have that victim mentality at all. I want to choose to be proactive about stress, react when it does happen in a healthy way, and that's where I'm at with mine.
So going back to something we said the other night, as you go through each of these topics and kind of write things down, get them out your head and see it, work through it, it gives you the opportunity to see new possibilities. So
Mhm.
now you're saying, if I look at stress from a different way and not choose to be a victim because of the stress, it gives me a different way to approach life.
Correct.
Right.
A whole
Okay.
different way.
Okay. 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 I love that. Okay. Thank you, Lydia, for joining. See you in the room, in the chat room. Okay. Your question, Miss Nicole.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. I was trying to, my Aunt Lisa, I tell you, I may be too.
So I love that that was just so powerful. Stress can be a victimizer because I think we it's easy to be the victim.
Yeah.
It's real easy to be the victim, and I think people have become so comfortable with the role of victim that they don't even realize that they are living in that role.
Right.
And I don't think people realize, because when you're playing the victim and telling your story as the victim, you feel like you're getting power because people are sympathizing
That's
with you.
correct.
However, you're giving away all your power to change the narrative. So once you get out of that victim mentality, that victim mindset, you can do just what you said. I can choose to change my situation. I
That's
can
right.
choose to see it different. Yeah.
Now, the question was, how is your response to stress preventing you from maximizing your potential in your daily life? So,
Mhm.
I actually did some research on this one. There are three responses to stress, and I want the audience to help me with this.
Okay.
You have three responses. Alarm is one.
Alarm,
Alarm,
ALARM. Okay.
like, yep, alarm is one. Resistance is two, and exhaustion is three.
Okay. So you're going to tell us what they are, then you want the audience to put.
Alarm is like you get sweaty, you get like the
Oh,
physical manifestations of stress. Resistance is you pretend like it's not there,
oh,
or you resist it in ways that are probably unhealthy coping mechanisms. And then exhaustion is just, it just takes a physical toll on you.
Okay.
So if you guys had to guess which way was the way I respond most to stress, is it alarm, resistance, or exhaustion? And you guys can put them in the chat. Put your comments in the chat. Alarm, resistance, or exhaustion. The question is, how do you think I most respond to stress?
I would think while everyone is putting their response about how they believe you would respond to stress,
Correct.
I would think it's exhaustion. I don't know if I'm correct. I would think it's exhaustion because you're not an avoider, and I don't see you just walking around like a bit sweat ball all the time. So
The
I would think
armpits.
yeah. Okay, Lydia put resistance. Okay, so
Okay.
I have Felicia in the chat, Dot in the chat, Verna, Ron, Sean, Jackie, Lydia, Marilyn.
Yeah, and some of y'all may not know me that great, but just guess.
Just guess.
Guess.
Well,
Take
each
a
one
guess.
of you I know have been here just about almost most of you have been here every night just from what you've seen on these lives. What would you guess? Does she respond as an alarm person? She sweats. She's resistant to it. And what's the other one?
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Go ahead and put what you think in the chat. And then after you put that, I'm curious. So we talked about stress, what it looks like. We talked about the different roles that you can play as a parent, woman, man, employee, friend, spouse, sibling, child. We talked about all the different types of pressure that life can add on you. How do you respond to stress? Do you sweat? Are you alarmed? Does it exhaust you out and you just want to go away and get under the covers and close yourself out? Or do you resist it and pretend it's not there? Put your comment in the chat. Thank you, Lydia. Lydia says she believes that you are resistant. So I said exhaustion. She said resistance. Which one of us is correct, or is it something else? Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, drum roll. I would say it is exhaustion.
Yeah, I can see
Like
that.
I'm the type of person that will wrestle a stressor down to the ground. And yeah, I mean, I hardly ever let it go. I hardly ever, say, you know what, this is not my fight even. And I probably should. Sometimes it's not even my fight. I'm fighting other folks' fights, but exhaustion is my stressor, the
Yeah,
way I
yeah.
respond to stress.
Okay, so Verna put exhaustion as well. Ron put resistance. Hmm.
Husband,
Okay.
I'm resistant to stress. Yeah, I mean shaking it off me. Ain't got time. Ain't
Okay.
got
Okay.
time.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like exhaustion is it because you'll run
Yeah.
until you can't anymore in all the areas that of your life that I've been privy to see. So thank you guys for
Yeah. Thank
participating.
y'all for
Yeah. Yeah.
participating.
So I'm going to read the next
Resistance is number
question.
two, though.
Yeah.
Resistance is number two for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna read question and quote. Do mine. But in the
Yep.
meantime, in between time, I would like for each of you, Dot, Sean, Felicia, Lydia, Marilyn, everybody, Jackie, I want you to type in something that you know that stresses you out. Tell us something that you know that stresses you out that you are aware of that you need to make a plan to figure out how to deal with. So put in the chat something that you know that stresses you out. And it doesn't have to be anything we mentioned. It could be something completely different. So I'm going to go ahead and read question 2 and quote 2, and you
Okay.
guys go ahead
Yeah.
and enter the chat.
All right.
So quote 2 is the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And that's by William
Mm,
James. And I think you
mm.
kind of touched on it.
That
And
sure.
I 100% believe that. Like, I hear people say so many times, well, that's just the way I am. Well, that's just how I deal with stuff. That is a truth in the moment because that's how you're choosing to.
Right.
Everything in life, you get a choice in. The choices might not be choices you like, but you get to choose. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, you get to choose whether something is going to stress you out. I'm not saying things won't happen and you have an immediate reaction to it, because that's what stress does. But you don't have to hold that reaction in a negative space. You can
Right.
choose to see it. You can choose to see it as freedom from, freedom to. You can choose to see it as, okay, well, this is something that is happening that's unexpected that I don't want to happen. But what am I supposed to learn from this? What in this can make me better once I get through it?
That's right.
What challenge is this presenting for me to find an answer to? There's always a positive way to look at something or to explore something. So I think I agree 100% with this quote. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. We don't
Mhm.
have to stay in victim mode. We don't have to stay in negative mode. We don't have to stay in worry mode. We don't have to stay in angry mode. We don't have to. Humans are the only species that get to, at any moment's time, do something different.
That's
We're
right.
not forced to fly south for the winter. We're not forced to migrate across the Serengeti. We have free will and free choice in everything that we do. And you get to choose whether or not you're going to remain stressed, right? So
Right.
the question is, are you consciously choosing peace and joy, or are you unconsciously operating in confusion, worry, control, and fear?
Mm.
And I think you can quickly tell who operates in worry, because they always approach you with something, but don't do this because this is going to happen, right? And I'm guilty of that. I'm definitely guilty of that. Operating confusion because you're choosing to keep a state of chaos around you. Operating in a state of control or fear. Now, are you
Mhm.
choosing those things, or are you choosing peace and joy? I 100% believe that there are people that are addicted to drama,
Me. I'm just joking. I'm just
addicted to chaos, addicted to toxicity, and they don't even know how to operate in environments that
a
are
normal.
peaceful.
Right. Correct.
And I'm not going to even say the word normal, because normal
Yeah,
is
that's true.
subjective.
That's true.
You know,
That's true.
but they don't even know how to operate in a space that is peaceful, and they get uncomfortable. They start to think people are looking at them or judging them, or they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And those people tend to have difficult relationships, whether they're romantic relationships, work relationships, family relationships, because they're going to always self sabotage the relationship by looking for a way to bring chaos, to bring conflict back into the mix, because that's the only way they know how to operate. And so I've encountered that person in family, in friends,
Mhm.
at work. They're there, right?
Mhm.
But I get to choose to not engage. I get to choose to love you or like you from afar, or just not to engage with you at all. And that was like a light switch for me when I realized that I didn't have to continue to play with you because of our family relationship, or because of our friendship, or because you were my boss or my colleague. I don't have to. I don't have
Yeah.
to. Yeah,
You
yeah,
got to.
yeah. And so let's see. Verna put people are a stressor for her.
No, that's right,
And,
Brenda.
and I can see that, like, because people come with their stuff, right? And
Right.
people don't
Right.
realize they stuff, right? But that's shocking, because Verna is very much she's a social butterfly. She likes people. But I recognize that even in being, two things can be true. You can be a social butterfly and people can stress the heck out of you.
Right.
Lydia said what stresses her is being a good mom.
I
That
know
was
that's
one
right, lady.
that's one of the things that we talked about before you got on, Lydia, that one thing that can stress you out is your role, being a
Mhm.
mother, being a father, and being worried about whether or not you're doing it right. And I can tell you as a parent, yeah, it's a guessing game every day. It's a
Every
crapshoot every day. Some days you get it right, and some days you get it terribly wrong. And
yeah.
you just have to ask for forgiveness and keep it moving and learn. Felicia said, I had my cousin's son. That was a stress report.
Oh.
So taking on somebody else's child is your responsibility. Sean said anticipation. And
Mm,
baby, when you
I like
waiting on
that one.
something, when you waiting on them test results, when you
Mhm.
waiting on something important to see if you got the raise, you got the promotion, what the outcome is gonna be, can drive you back crazy, right? So
Right.
yeah, I get that. Let's see. Felicia Roberts says, I chose what was expected of me. I chose what was expected of me. Hmm. What's that mean? So people had
Mhm.
expectations for you to do something. And
And
so you
that's
said, that's what I'm going to do. So you neglected to choose for yourself, or you didn't feel like you could choose for yourself. I'm guessing that's what you're saying. If that is, let me know. And Ron said, unorganized people. Baby. You look like you're taking personal offense to the
sound like I'm a stressor up in here.
I run,
I'm joking, y'all.
baby. I understand because I try not. Every
Yeah,
day is a
I
work in process
yeah, I
for the
don't like
control.
unorganized folks either.
Not to have to try to control everything, but when I walk into something and it's unorganized, I'm done.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
done.
it's like that. I don't want to be here.
I'm done. I'm
Don't even
done.
worry about it.
And Felicia said dealing with staff slash problems. So we are both in H&R, not HR, but H&R, baby. And what I tell my leaders all the time, just because you have hired somebody, they were successful in the interview and you thought they were cool enough to hire them, just because they come to work don't mean they're leaving their drama at home. They
All
bring it
right.
right on into the job with them and expect
Mhm.
you to manage their stuff, right? So I get that, Lisa. I get it. Dot said family problems stress her out.
I know that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we sometimes we have to learn to say no again. Sometimes we have to learn how to love from afar because people will tend to rely on you. And sometimes we create that superhero
Hmm.
role for ourselves where we always show up for people and they begin to expect it. They don't appreciate what you do for them. They begin to expect that you should show up when they decide to mess up. So that could be a heavy weight. That could be a heavy weight. And Felicia, she's talking about her cousin's son, EJ, how much she loved him. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. So thank you guys for participating. All
yeah.
of those things are stressors, and those are things that happen in everyday life that you don't recognize maybe are stressors, or you try to push them off, or you try to, say it's not a big deal and walk and continue to walk through it. I tell you one thing, I think we all have done a great job at normalizing crazy. And
I'll
what I
write
mean
it
by
down.
that, stress and pressure. The stresses that we talked about and the pressures that we talked about. The first time I realized I really normalized crazy was when I was working for APS, Atlanta Public Schools. And I went on a family medical leave. I did not realize how crazy my life had become until I was told I need to remove myself for a period of time to get myself together.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
work, the people,
Hmm.
juggling family life, going to work, getting off work, running across town to the school, to the PTA. My life was insane. And I have to look back, like Lydia just talked about being a good mom. I look back now and I wonder how in the hell did I do what I did as a parent, right? And when I tell you, I'm blessed because I have a village. At the drop of a dime, my mama was there. You know what I'm saying? I had other folks I could count on. My baby daddy there. I had a significant other there. It was still hard. It was still busy. It was still crazy. It was still chaotic. I don't know. You couldn't pay me no amount of money to go back through that again. But it
Hmm.
was normal. You don't even think about it. You just get up and do it day after day after day after day.
Yep.
We normalize Christ every day, all day. Thank you, Tara, for joining. I appreciate that. So today, Tara, we are on lifestyle topic 4 in our Conquering the Inner Storm journal. And what we're doing over the next 12 days or during this 12-day period is sharing with you guys. I'm going to call you guys our RP journalers.
Yeah.
Sharing with you guys how to move through the journal. Not give you specific directions because again, everybody's experience is going to be individual, but sharing with you how to approach it through our stories and through telling you this is what happened to us after going through this topic and peeling the layers back. This is what we discovered, and this is how we plan to move forward. So the journal, each topic, each chapter or topic has an excerpt that you have to read and select one word and tell why that word resonates with you. Has 4 quotes and questions that get you to think deeper, and then has a closure letter for you to, after you've done all this work, close out some things. And then the love letter is directly following that so that you can decree something new for yourself.
That's right.
Right. So that's what the gist of the journal is, and you have 12 topics to work through. And you work through at your own pace, by yourself or with a group. And Etsy, I'm gonna plug it out there one more time. The journal is out there on Etsy.com. That's what it looks like. So go out there, search Conquering the Inner Storm, find a picture that looks like that, click on it, and hit purchase. So that's what it's been about. And Tara said, glad to be here. Good stuff. Thank you. Okay, so moving right along to 8th grade. So the next quote in question says, the quote is, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And that's by John Kabat-Zinn. I think I pronounced that correctly. So what I wrote down for this is learning to flow downstream. And I said downstream in particular because most of us live our life going upstream, trying to fight up the current, trying to force the situation to be the way that we want it to be, trying to control it and thinking that the only way a situation can work is the way that we pictured it working. And that causes stress, that creates undue pressure, right? So if we learn to flow downstream is the way the current is going. Learning to flow downstream with the current ensures constant movement. Because when you're going upstream, sometimes you're fighting so hard, you standing still, right? It symbolizes the passing through the good and the bad, the continuous arrival. So if you're constantly flowing downstream, you're constantly arriving somewhere. You're constantly getting somewhere. It gives you the freedom to flow. So that's what that quote means to me. Learn to ride with the wave instead of resisting the wave. Some of us fight. I'm just gonna keep it real. Some of us fight for our limiting beliefs. We know it's not serving us. We know it's not doing any good, but we will use that excuse time and time again and stand on business.
Well, I don't fight no more. Okay, I don't fight no more.
Stand on business as to the reason why we cannot do it.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to go with the flow. And how can you cultivate a positive mindset and reframe negative thoughts? I literally talked about this a bit last night. Made a conscious choice. I'm very intentional every day. Every day. I ride in my car in complete silence. The radio is stupid to me now. If I'm not playing one of my YouTube affirmation videos or something that's positive, I'm in silence because it makes me focus on the road. It makes me pay attention to what's around me. It gives me a chance to think, right? But I made the conscious choice to reprogram my thoughts by removing all the negativity. If you negative, I can't mess with you. I'm not looking at the news. I removed all the negative distractors from my life. And my life is pretty quiet. And I'm okay with that because I rather deal with quiet clarity than loud chaos. So I think you have to be intentional. So with that, I want you guys to think of something and you can really put it in chat. I appreciate you guys being so interactive and engaging with us tonight, but tell us something that you can do to cultivate or create a positive mindset for yourself. What's something that you can add to your life or remove from your life to create a more positive environment for yourself? Put that in the chat for me.
And while y'all putting that in the chat, I just made one little comment on a question on that one.
Okay.
And I put being comfortable too long makes you soft. And what I meant by that is sometimes stress moves you to discomfort. Sometimes stress is good to move you from a comfortable place to a new comfortable place. So, I try to also assess whether or not this is good stress and is meant to move me to a place of discomfort because that's where I'm supposed to be anyway.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because that's the balance. That's the
Yeah.
balance. Stress is needed to let us know we're uncomfortable or something is happening.
Somehow, right.
Yeah, and we don't need to be reactive. We need to be able to calmly respond to it. But thank you for saying that some stress is needed. And
Hmm.
you're right. Sometimes we can get so comfortable that we're complacent and we
Right.
don't do what we need to do until we're made extremely uncomfortable. And you shouldn't have to get to a point of being extremely uncomfortable, because then you're forced to make a choice that you might not have wanted to make when you could have just kind of moved when the initial stress hit you. Yeah. Oh, Ron said something that he adds to his space to create a positive mindset is ambient sounds. So I got that, Ron. I use a lot of white noise and Hertz music all the time. It's so peaceful. And for people that like ocean music, or
Alien music.
it's not alien music. It is not,
You see, I
but
got
it's
the
helpful.
galaxy and the earth back here.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
time Ron puts on something, I'm picking on him because I happen to know him and I see him on a regular basis. It's always like, I'm
It's
like, what?
great. It's great. It's great.
The Prince remix?
It helps with your frequency. So yeah, thank you, Ron. I'm glad I'm not the only one that uses those types of sounds to regulate me. So that's pretty cool.
He
Yeah.
does. It helps me too. It helps me too.
Okay.
So it
Yeah,
looks
finish my
like
quote question.
yeah, I do my quote question, then we have our guest speaker get
Okay.
on with us. So my quote is stress is an ignorant state. It believes
Okay.
that everything is an emergency.
Ooh,
I
okay.
know
Okay.
everything. And I put down, I agree that I've never thought of stress as being ignorant until I read this quote.
Yeah.
And I also agree that the more information that I have to determine a plan and to prioritize and to decide on what the stressor is, I can determine whether it's an emergency or not. So
Okay.
I think, when you're getting information the first time, it's just coming to you, it's new, and you're having to digest it. I think when you take a few moments to digest what you're actually hearing, ask the right questions, it's more than likely it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
More than likely. But sometimes it is. Sometimes you like, it's one of those like Armageddon moments, right? That it's a problem. So but I never thought of stress as being ignorant. And stress only, how can I say it? Stress only has the face that we give it.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
stress can be as beautiful and as nice as powerful as we want it to be in a good way, or ugly and dark and in a bad way. So stress doesn't have a, what's the word? Stress is like your soul. It's whatever you put on it.
Yeah.
That's what it
Okay.
is.
Okay. You better
So,
quote.
but I
You
never
better
thought
make
of
a
it as being
quote.
ignorant,
Okay.
but it has to be ignorant because it didn't have a choice.
That's right. That's
See,
right.
I be spitting knowledge. You
Rhymes.
feel
It
me?
rhymes. I love it. I love it.
And then lastly, we got the question: what stressors are creating a false sense of urgency in your life? Ugh. I took this as internal stresses that are inside of me, and then stresses that are external to me. So inside of me, I put expectations, demands, misconceptions about entrepreneurship. So of course, you all know me and LaDonna's in this business thing, and it is not for the weak. Let me
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
And then externally, I put changes in financial state, dealing with time, the concept that time may not be on my side or time may be running out, but just time is not friendly right now for me, but it's going to be soon. a change in the health of my family members. So my mom and dad were going through some health things, and so they're on the positive end of that. So those have been things I've been dealing with externally and balancing my time.
Okay. Okay. All right. Woo.
Now, the man of the hour,
Woo.
Mr. Milton
Woo.
Ross. So Milton Ross is a HR director. LaDonna and I have gotten the opportunity to work with this awesome person for the last 2 years. He is absolutely supportive, absolutely wonderful. And we asked Milton to join us tonight to talk about his take on dealing with stress. And is it dealing with stress and pressure? I'm trying to close my book because I
Stress
got
and pressures. Dealing with stress and
dealing
pressure.
with stress and pressure for our topic number 4. So Milton, I'll be quiet and we'll let you have the floor, sir.
You got your mute on. Okay, there you
You know I'm bad about that, Don. You know I'm bad.
go.
First of all, I appreciate you guys inviting me to join your meeting. I guess for me, if you talk about kind of that section of just how you're dealing with stress, and then just some of the quotes I think you guys pulled out. For me, before I guess I go into it, it took me to not necessarily dealing with stress because I think that section is just more dealing with just life in general.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, you know, as we tell team members or employees or associates, whatever you want to call them, at your business, we ask you to leave l- life or your personal issues at home. But typically, uh, those go hand in hand, and life's gonna keep life, and whether or not you want to or not. And so for me, I think that it reminded me of, and we probably never heard this story, but um, I was in college, and the first class I had to take was a class that was called Suffering and Meaning. And in the course initially I had to explain to in a thesis paper or why the good people suffer.
Mm.
And doing the particular or your thesis, he gave us one book to read, and it basically took us through the book of Job. And if you guys ever kind of read the book of Job, it kind of talks to you about um, how he had to deal with all of those um, uh, unnecessary stress that was placed on him, based off of some other people's decision. So for me, when I went through just those stressors, and it kind of talked about kind of like some of those highlights and some of the things you need, that you needed to manage. The first thing that I thought that you guys hit home with was, I think, the mind. Because if you can conquer the mind, you can conquer everything else you needed to do. And I think
True.
for me, that kind of really made a lot of sense is that, a lot of the stresses, even from your quote, you necessarily can't you can't control the stressor, but you can control how you respond to it. I think that whole Joel piece of truly focusing in on the actions in which you need to do to manage it or correct it or reduce it is starts with how we truly process the information. If we're always looking at what I need to do to manage it versus how the stress got on me, you will never control it. So,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think just some great things I think you guys kind of threw out there to people, because if you control the mind, you control stress. If you don't control the mind, it will leave you be stressed out. So I think you guys do a lot of great nuggets to people on understanding the truly biggest thing that Nicola said I always quote is, I always focus on things I can control, and things the uncontrollables I get to God so that I can make sure that I reduce my stress level. And I think your quotes basically are telling you truly just focus on those activities that you need to continue to drive to reduce the things that you can't control. Because typically, where stress comes from is we're managing the things that we really don't have a whole lot of control over, or if we
That's
do have
right.
control over it, it's a lot of the things that we may can't impact. So we kind of have to continue just working through it. The mind is your strongest ally, in my opinion, when you're talking about dealing with stress. Keeps you from getting sick, keeps you from truly getting stressed out, and just a whole lot of things. But I think this section would have resonated with me just about how you just manage your business, your personal life, just everything, as it relates to just trying to be, a successful human being. I think your section is probably deeper than just applying it to business practices. Because if you can manage it, if you manage stress well, you can manage everything well.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So Milton, I'm about to call you out. I'm about to do it. What is right now, whether it's controllable or not, what is your number one stressor? And what is your best way of coping with stress personally?
Probably my number one stress would probably be the personal expectations I have of myself.
Mm, I can see that.
Where did they come from? Where did your personal expectations come from?
Well, so for me, when you come from nothing and you are focused on where you're heading, you have high expectations of failure is not an option. And when failure is not an option, you place unnecessary uh, stressors on yourself to achieve those goals. And then, the whole portion of life continues life as you
Right.
still try to achieve those goals, I think is what probably hits me the hardest. So, and I think of mine personally, if I broke them out, you know, I want to be the best, father I can be to my son. Well, life is gonna life. That's a personal stressor where I'm trying to make sure that I make the money so I can take care of my family, but I ain't absent where I'm not being, a father. I think being a husband, I know ain't no men on the call right now, but the
Yeah,
easy
they are.
thing,
There's a couple of them.
We got
There's a
yeah,
some.
couple of them out there.
the easy thing is definitely not being a husband and trying to figure out how you manage to those things and show up the right way for your spouse. I think of, my job. Anyone who knows me, the most important thing to me is the people that's around me and the people I'm responsible for. I place a high burden on myself to make sure that I don't let those people down. So when you start thinking about all those individual buckets, when you got personal goals to make sure you show up the right way for everyone and yourself, I think it could cause a lot of unnecessary stress for you.
How do you, two questions. How do you deal with stress? And then what is one thing out of the chapter that you needed to either think about again or you got from it that was important to you?
Well, the first one, I potentially deal with stress. So I first put it in two buckets. Can I control it, or is it uncontrollable? Once I put it in those two uncontrollable buckets, how I manage stress is I figure out a way to rechannel that energy. So for instance, anybody who know me, I gotta try to keep my sexy. So, I get up at 4:30 in the morning and and what I don't do is I don't answer my wife's questions. I don't talk to my son. I don't answer my phones. I don't respond to nobody emails. I don't watch TV. I don't talk to nobody. I just get up and I work on me. And I donate that hour, at 4:30 in the morning to myself, and I don't let nobody take away from me to manage,
Oh, that's good.
all the other things, that I have going on to ensure that, I'm still pouring into myself. Because I think a lot of times we get stressed out because we're pouring into everybody else and we don't have nobody else filling up our own cup. But
Ooh,
the
Mm-mm.
the the,
ooh.
the reality is that if you don't pour in, you got to be responsible for pouring in your own cup as well. And that individual happiness, everybody, we place the burden on other people when it really needs to be with the person itself. So how I ensure that, I'm showing up the right way and managing it is that I put things in place to ensure that I'm taking care of myself so I can show up the right way for other people's, and that's also personal, like putting up boundaries. I know a lot of us, we're boundaryless. And so if you boundaryless and you allow everybody, in your circles at all
Right.
points in time of the day, and that will cause a lot of unnecessary stress too. But those are the two of the major things that I try to do for myself, outside of uh, trying to eat healthy. I mean, as you guys know, I
Good.
cut my diet quick to go try to keep that. If my belly starts showing a little bit, I'm finna cut everything out for a little while to keep my sexy. But
Secret.
but I also think though, that's another part of limiting stress. When you start eating bad and eating a lot of things that you don't supposed to eat, it plays on the mood. And
It
again, one
does.
thing that it gets you. And I think the other portion for me, that I like that the book hits on is, I know most people hate what Dion says about if you look good, you play good,
Make
but it's
it feel good. It's
yeah, it's the truth. If you're taking care of yourself and you're feeling good about yourself, you show up to the world the right way.
Yeah.
When you're not doing those things, you don't show up to the world that way, and you end up the world bites you. Meaning that if you don't got overweight when you used to being fit, you don't realize what the world is doing to you and what you're doing to yourself because you don't feel good, and the world's gonna let you know that you don't feel good about yourself. Just a lot of those different things that I think would, if you manage, those things, I definitely think you can. You're not gonna you're not gonna remove the stress. You will learn how to manage in a way where uh, it doesn't cause you to have unnecessary breakdowns, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Okay. So
yeah,
before and Dot said, "Ooh, that's good, Milton." The commentary is good, and Ron said, "I need a refill, please."
I just,
so,
I
so
just,
yeah.
I was just saying, I think once you go, you always talk about what you don't understand stress and until you become a man. And I think it's truly true. You don't really know what you don't know until you put in those situations. And then once
That's
you put
right.
in situations, then you gotta start having to figure out, okay, I now understand, what those people are saying. So yeah, I would definitely say uh, takeaways from it would be set your boundaries, focus on the controllables and your actual action items on what you need to do to address whatever your stresses are. You know, you don't have to eat clean, but you need to eat in a way and take care of yourself in a way to where you keep a clean mind. And then, the other thing is just finding something that's only for you, not for anybody else that, fills your cup. So if that's going to church or that's talking to your friends or that's reading a good book or whatever that does for you, exercising, I really think that that's a part of life that a whole lot of people miss, because we allow babies and co-workers and work and just everything else take over us filling up our own cup. And when you don't do something for yourself, and when I say that daily, it has to be something daily you're doing for
Yes.
yourself. I
Yes.
think some people, they think, well, I just do it one time a week, that's gonna fill my cup. No, you're gonna have
Mhm.
to do something daily for yourself to ensure that that cup is full.
I have a question, Milton. So we talked a lot. It seems like every chapter boundaries come up, right? And you
Yep.
mentioned boundaries as well as a way to kind of control once you put them in your buckets, setting boundaries for yourself. It's easy to say what those boundaries should be or what you want them to be. How have you enforced the boundaries that you set, whatever they are? I'm asking you this because you're the first man that we've had on as a special guest, and they've heard our miles the last couple, days. And I don't know if it's any different coming from a man who's a male, who's a parent, who is a husband. You're dealing with all the stresses and the pressures. How do you stick or enforce those boundaries with yourself and with others to make sure that they're not crossed to keep your stress under control?
I think that's a excellent question, and I actually think that is that that one thing that you just brought up is probably the most difficult thing to do as a man, especially even if you think more as a black man because of how the world views us just in general. But the things that I have put in place to ensure that the boundaries not crossed is first, you got to explain to the team or the people that are around you what those boundaries are. A lot of people are not forthcoming, or
Okay.
they're afraid to say, hey,
Oh,
look, I need this from you, and this is what I need. Again, if you don't have the conversation with that person, then they won't know what those boundaries are. So, give you an example. One time me and my wife we were working out together, and you gotta know me. When I'm working out, I'm working out. I don't want to talk. I want to play. Like this, my time that I use to work out for myself, but I'm gonna share it with you because that's just something you said you want to do. And well, she couldn't get understand why I always was getting upset with her when she wanted to play and talk and laugh and dance when I'm gonna let you in during my workout time. And what she didn't realize is that it wasn't that I didn't want to spend the time with her, but that was what I was doing to fill my cup. So my boundary was during this time, if you want to do this with me, these are the things that I need you to do. And that changed her mood to, okay, now I understand. So I think the first thing is you can't be afraid to have the conversations about the boundaries that you need to set for your cup to stay full. Uh, the
that's
second
so
portion
good.
of it, I think the second one would be the thing that I think that you will have to focus on when you're talking about your boundaries is that you got to be honest with yourself. I don't think enough of us look at the man in the mirror and say, okay, what do I truly need for me to,
Mm.
really focus and be great. I don't think we ever really ask ourselves that question. And for me, what I figured out is that how I've managed all of these different things is that I I need time to be able to do everything. And so what I mean by that is I'm very, very, I can almost be militant. And what I mean by it is that those boundaries is that for me to accomplish all of those things that I kind of alluded to, is only been so many hours in the day. And so the boundaries also come from your structure. So
Mm.
if you lack structure, you won't
Mm.
have boundaries. And if you don't have the
Okay.
boundaries, then you won't be able to do it. So the other portion of it is that you have you manage stress is you have to put the structure in place for yourself first so that then you understand what you need so that you can communicate the boundaries to the people that need to know your boundaries so you'll have successful relationships with everybody. And that's what you're going to have to continue managing, I think, throughout the process. I don't think that just gets it's not a one and done thing. That's something that you continuously massage. I don't care what type of relationship or friendship you have with a person. You're still gonna have to continue massaging it. But at least everybody know what the rules of engagement is.
Yeah.
Then you could typically uphold those boundaries. But I think the beginning portion of it, most people don't know themselves. They're unstructured, and then they're afraid to have the conversations. That's why they can't actually hold their boundaries because they're afraid to actually confront the people or actually inform the people what they need uh, to stay successful.
Sir,
Mm.
you just did let me see if I get it right. A triple double home run, super stacker, super soaker, touchdown, slam dunk.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah,
ooh, ooh. Not
lot.
Miss Elliott.
That's
No,
a
no,
whole
no.
lot with a hat
Uh,
trick.
on that answer, oh my God. I mean, you hit so many, and that wasn't gender specific. Those are people. I think everyone can resonate or identify with what you said because a lot of us are fearful of having those conversations. A lot of us can't communicate what we need. A lot of us haven't asked ourselves what we need. A lot of us have not put that structure in place, and we will always say we don't have time. Something else came first. No, if you put that structure in place and you're intentional
Yep.
about it, and everybody know you serious about it, guess what? Guess what shows up automatically, mysteriously? Time.
Mm.
Time.
Time. It shows up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I mean, again,
Berner
I
said
think.
word.
Hey, I'm just saying. I think that's it's the enemy of progress.
Ooh, yes.
You
Yes.
know, and I think it's also the enemy of broken or failed relationships because those are the couple of things that we just fail to do. Uh, and it's even worse. It's terrible in the workplace, even when we don't do a good job at it, even though they're paying us for it. And we even worse at home because we doing this something we should be doing for ourselves to keep the peace and to keep our stress level low. But we won't engage because no one is comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you have to be uncomfortable to get that growth. Those
Right.
muscles don't those muscles don't start to pop until
Mm-mm.
you make them
No, ma'am.
uncomfortable and stretch them. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
ma'am. No,
yeah.
ma'am. And I don't even care if you're trained to still be dealing with always uncomfortable situations. Nobody still want to deal with it when it's your personal
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the differentiation, in the two. And I think that's the muscle. If they don't get anything for any of this stuff, that's the muscle that you really have to work on. Because the stress comes with dealing with not want to deal with the uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what you do is you focus on what you couldn't control. And that's the reason why it gets worse and get worse and get worse and get worse and get worse versus, hey, well, I can't help that I broke my arm and the car hit me. But you know what I am gonna focus on? I'm gonna focus on physical therapy. I'm gonna focus on doing, taking my vitamins. I'm gonna focus on exercising. I'm gonna get up every day. I'm gonna tell myself I feel fine. I ain't gonna keep worrying about the drunk driver hit me. But you have
Yeah.
so many people, they'll be focused on the drunk driver longer than the recovery. That's why
That's
it takes
right.
them so long to recover. So
That's
I
right.
think it's the same concept. I think when you talk about stress, when you look at Job's journey, I just think all of them are intertwined. If you take the same lessons and the boundaries and being uncomfortable and criticizing the man or woman in the mirror, I think any of them can be managed if you take those simple concepts.
Well, I don't know if Nicole has any more questions, but I have one last question. Was there anything specific or particular in the journal that really stood out to you that you really liked that really helped you kind of see things a little different? Because it sounded like you got a lot of things worked out, but was there anything in the journal that really resonated with you that moved you?
Well, for me, I like the Q&A in the quotes. I think the quotes forces you, to kind of think reset. Even when you know the answers to the question, sometimes you still need confirmation of what you thought you knew. And I think for me going through the chapter, it just kind of reminded me of, okay, I know where I want to go, and I know I work hard to get there, but it might not be my time to be where I'm expecting to be.
Ooh, okay.
So it just kind of reminded me I'm where I'm supposed to be,
Okay.
versus me being where I thought I should be. And because that's an internal stressor for me.
That's a
You know what
pressure.
I'm saying? So yeah, that you put that pressure on you. I need to be making $500,000 a year and you grinding every day trying to get it. But hey, you're making $200,000 a year. You can be happy with that too, as you still, chase your goals. So I think for me, it's going through it and just being reminded to slow down. And also, the activity also forced me to start reading some other stuff outside of just work all the time. Because what we do
Mhm.
for professions, you try to turn that off and you don't want to, again, you don't keep pouring it in your cup because you don't pour it and you don't took a little bit out your teapot and you poured it in another and you poured it in another and you poured it in another and you poured it in another. And by the time you got home, you won't eat and all
Yeah.
you want to do
Yeah.
is get you something to eat, and lay across the bed, maybe, toss your child around a little while and call it a day. You don't want to talk to your wife, your husband, you're tired. And
Mhm.
what I recognize is that, just for myself, it's just to close it out or what resonated with me and what I really liked about it was it also just it reminded me that I gotta I gotta show up for my family just the way I show up for work.
Ooh,
And you still gotta
okay.
put that same effort into both. And so to not give out everything that I had in my cup so I don't have nothing to pour back into my family. So those are some of the things that for me when I went through the chapter, it kind of reminded me because I can be tunnel vision. I'm just thinking about getting my goal, and I'm probably one of the best people getting to my goal. But boy, it's a train wreck outside of me, outside everything else while I was after my goal. And and my wife always tell me, you ain't got to keep worrying about your checklist. But I'm a checklist man. If I said I was gonna get all these things accomplished that day, I'm gonna get all those things accomplished that day. Well, I maybe missed everything else that was going on aside me not
But I
doing it,
got
but
that
I got what I
checklist
got to do.
done.
I got my checklist done, so I think those are probably the two the two things for me is the I think the activity, if you have a very busy life like most of us do, it'll slow you down and remind you of the things that you need to put in place just for yourself, and others to ensure that again you're managing. And I don't like to use the word stress. I just kind of like to use the word life.
Okay, so
Okay.
it is. It
I didn't
is.
have a
I
question.
think it's just
Yeah.
life in general.
Yeah.
I didn't have a question, just a comment. No one's coming to talk to you at 4:30 in the morning. Just want to let you know. No one. You got that dark hour all by yourself.
Look here, that's the personal people because y'all sleep, but work they a whole different beast.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's true. That's
24/7.
true. That's
They're
true. That's
24/7. Well, thank you, Latrice, for joining in on the conversation. And Verna said, "Great job, Mr. Milton." So
Mr.
you have
Ross.
dropped some nuggets on us tonight about stress, about pressure, just from the human perspective, but you also gave us some insight from the male perspective as a
Mm-hmm.
dad, as an employee, as a husband, just trying to navigate life and still accomplish your goals. Like the things that really are concerning to you and how you navigate them and how you deal with them and how the journal has. I'm so appreciative that I didn't think about the journal doing that in an exercise, making people realize, let me slow down. Let me savor the moment. So I appreciate that the
Yeah.
journal brought that up and out into your current reality. So yeah, thank you
Oh
so much.
yeah, oh yeah. I'm glad you guys actually even started this process because I think a lot of people that are on this journey of life where we're heading somewhere, and again, you got the noise always going around you, and the noise a lot of times get your attention. I think the activities that you guys have in the book try to help you navigate the noise. Because if you can keep the noise out,
T-shirt, navigate the noise. Okay, writing
you
that
know,
down.
Writing it down, buddy.
yeah, so crazy. But I think that portion of it, I think, gives you the ability to continue, driving in on the things that are important, not to just you, but the people that, or that you're responsible for, uh, or stakeholders in what you have going on. So I think the activities are just not just good for at work. I think these can be personal workshops just for people that's trying to, navigate, dealing with a stressful kid. Because if you really take this activity to heart, you'll put stuff in place to, deal with it. I mean, I
Mhm.
just think there's just so many things that you can take from, some of the chapters. So, kudos to you all for making it thought provoking and
Thank you.
interactive.
Thank you.
Um, I definitely think this would be one of those courses where I would have loved to have had a opportunity to be in a group of people and go through the activity. Because I think if you were in a group of people, I think you would have got more from it. Just in my personal opinion, just because again, I think a lot of us uh, learn through others,
Yeah.
and most people are not um, comfortable enough to truly share, the inner workings of themselves. But if you got enough confident people that's in the room who's willing to share, people are gonna learn and take stuff from it, and then start offering other perspectives that you will be surprised that you never would have thought of. So I just think it's power in numbers, and I think when you're talking about managing, I hate stress life. I think if you put the village, a village together, I think with some of these activities, I think you guys will move mountains because it'll force people to talk about it. Second of all, it'll force people to say, well, man, he dealing with more than I was, and he's still able to do A, B, C, D, E, and well, hell, I got to do some things different. You know, you know what I mean? Again,
Yeah.
it's one thing. All of us think our problems are 12 times worse than everybody else.
Yeah.
Kind of that activity where you remember they had a guy who wrote the quote. It was a particular gentleman. It was a guy that he was in a wheelchair, and a guy rode up in a bike. And the guy on
Yeah.
the bike, and the guy, I know y'all remember that one?
Yeah.
And the guy in the bike, and the guy in the wheelchair said, man, I wish I had that bike so I could get there faster. Then the guy on the bike looked over, the guy was in the Corvette, and the guy in the Corvette said, and the guy in the bike was like, man, I wish I had, and it keeps going on and
On
on
and
and
on. Yeah.
on with everybody always wanted, what the other person has. So I just think that type of activity, geared with, the thought provoking questions and things that you have, with the journal, and doing your love letter to yourself, I think will uh, uh, do great for visual management. And when you're talking about, because a lot of people don't realize, the spoken word is probably the most powerful thing that you have for yourself. And if you're putting these things down on paper and you telling yourself and reinforcing it, and if it would be me, I would write it down on that piece of paper and I would put it on my mirror every morning. So you walk up to it, you see it, and tell yourself, these are the things I'm going to do each day,
That's
and
right.
speak it into existence. I think that visual management piece of kind of what you guys also added in the instructions and guidebook, for a person who doesn't have any of these things in place. I think it will. It's almost like a love contract for yourself.
Yeah. That's what it was meant to be. You
Yeah.
right on the head. That's what it was meant to be. Yeah.
And you hold your own self accountable for taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And these are the things you will need to do. And I think doing it and coupling it and being able to steal ideals, from other people, I think people will get a lot from this chapter.
Thank you so much, Mr. Milton. I
Thank
mean,
you, Milton. And thank you for all of our folks.
yeah. Yeah.
Everybody that joined today. Lots of good engagement and good feedback. I took so many good notes. So
Me
I mean,
too.
I've been taking good notes the whole way around, but just really appreciate the candor.
I
No,
always, and
you've
I
been awesome.
appreciate y'all inviting me on.
Oh, we appreciate you accepting, and you said so many things, and I'm glad you gave the perspective of doing it in a group, because when we set forth and put this together, we knew that there were going to be people that would benefit from doing it individually, because it creates a space for them to get stuff out and they're not ready to share with other people. But we also knew the value of people doing it in a group just because of everything that you said. So it's a versatile journal. And the goal is whoever, however you do it, we want it to move you forward. We want it to help you transform who you are, where you are, how you are, so you can get to where you want to be. Right. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for saying all the things you did. Thank you so much for giving us your perspective, a male perspective, um, a black male perspective, a father perspective, all the perspectives. We really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate everybody that stayed with us tonight, that tuned
Yep.
in. And let me give one more shout out, then we can close it out. Thank you again. And again, I can only see the people that leave your name in the chat. Thank you, Felicia, Dot, Verna, Ron, Sean, Jackie, Marilyn, Lydia, Felicia Roberts. I think I said Verna, Betty, Dot, Tara Johnson, Latrice, and Armisha, and Sean. Good stuff. Sean said, another fella on the line, good stuff, Mr. Milton. Good stuff. So you don't knock that come on tonight. You got two
Well,
people.
well, 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 look here, look how I take it. When you just being brutally honest, and you let you, and as Nicole, wear all your feelings on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Legitimately being honest with people.
We appreciate it. That's what we need. That's what we want. We need more honest conversation, and you definitely did that. So thank you so much. Nicole, you have anything else to say
I'm
before we get out
good.
of here?
I'm blessed. Thank y'all so much. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yes.
Chapter 5, topic 5. I'm
Is
looking at our topic 5 is coping with the demands of family and parenting. So go get the journal. Go get the journal. It's awesome. It's awesome. So get your love letter to yourself.
All right. Well, thank you
All
so much,
right.
Mr. Milton. We will talk
Bye,
to you guys
team.
later. Signing off until tomorrow. Everyone have a beautiful evening.
Bye.